Entertalk Radio, you're in to all things music.
May the best brand win with Scott Robertson's Music Biz Marketing Strategies. Now, here's your host, Scott Robertson.
Hey everybody, happy Friday. You are tuned to May the Best Brand Win on Entertalk Media, the undisputed leader in music biz talk. I am Scott, your host, and a man who was very excited to see the all-female spacewalk happening, and now I'm just waiting for the all-guitar player spacewalk. They're going to recruit myself and Paul B. We're gonna be there doing the all guitar player. If you had like an all drummer one, you couldn't do that because they couldn't get past the NASA intelligence test. I'm guessing, right? What do you think, Paul?
Yes. Well,
it's an all drummer spacewalk. And then they forget to go do it.
They sent apes to space.
Oh man, we're just merciless. Dude, the all guitar player spacewalk would be awesome because then you could do some air guitar in space. You know, it's all guitar players. That'd be great. They need to work on these all kind of things. But really, a really cool, momentous occasion for the all female spacewalk. I'm gonna talk about a little bit more in winning and losing too, because a couple of companies did some cool stuff to integrate into there from a marketing perspective. Look at them go.
I gotta say before you jump into it, guitar player spacewalk could be a disaster. I think any guitar players up there, once they realize that they're revolving around the world and the world does not revolve around them, are going to have a really, really hard time.
And we opened up a whole vein of new guitar player jokes with that. That could go a lot of ways. It's going to go south though. So before it goes too south, we're going to talk. We'll get into the show here. So who am I? What do I do? How do you reach me? So I run a public relations and branding agency here in lovely Orange County, California. Let's see. I help companies win at marketing a lot of different ways. Usually focus on a lot of message-driven and attraction-based kind of strategies, kind of stuff, rather than just kind of sending out a bunch of ads and then making acting like that's a marketing program. How do you reach me? You can send an email to Scott at robertsoncom, 2Ms like communications.com, or you can find us out there in social media land. Twitter handle is at robertsoncom, again, 2Ms, or you can find us out there on Facebook, facebook.com/robertsoncom, 2Ms. And somebody asked me, they said, why don't you have like an Instagram a feed, for Robertson.com? I have one personally, but I don't have one for the company. And I guess that's just because we basically just handle it on, Facebook's flagship on Facebook itself, rather than, do it on Instagram. But, I go to a lot of trade shows and cover a lot of stuff, and Instagram could be a really cool way to start doing that. So maybe I'll open one up. We'll see. Every time you open up a channel like that, it adds work to your plate. So you have to kind of ask yourself the question, do I need more work? Am I looking to keep up an entire new channel that is going to require babysitting? I don't know. But you guys are smart because you've tuned into episode 137. We're going to talk about understanding today, a topic that's kind of been on my mind lately. So understanding, AKA comprehension of communications, is the most desired outcome of what we do in effective communications. But a lot of companies out there are in such a big hurry to sell you something, they're not going to let a little thing like your preferences or your needs get in the way of their goals. Excuse me, sorry about that. So to help out, I'm going to focus this episode on things that you need to help people really understand your message. I know it's antiquated, but still really important for people to get that message. We're also going to dive headfirst into who's winning and losing this week, and this episode is going to be another award winner. I can already feel it. I can feel that it's going to go that way. So without further ado, let's talk about understanding. Just a personal example that kind of got me thinking about it. So recently, I went to a pharmacy, and I waited in the the rather long line got my medicine, was ready to leave, and then I had a question. I actually had a question about the medicine there, and so I said they have big signs and say speak to a pharmacist about your, if you have a question, speak to a pharmacist. So I said yes, I'd like to speak to a pharmacist. So the pharmacist comes over, and this pharmacist, I will couch this story in saying that this person was not having a good day. She was slamming things down. She was upset. She was angry. Who knows what's going on in the pharmacist's life? That's not the point of the story. The point of the story is the fact that the pharmacist, basically went through the caveats and the benefits of the medicine and that kind of thing very quickly with me. And then she looks right up at me, makes perfect eye contact with me and says, "You understand, right?" Like it was a threat. It was like you understand, dipshit, or you understand, right? I mean, it was exactly in that sort of tone, right? And it sort of got me thinking, when we are desperate for people to understand what we're saying, we sort of threaten them with it. We're just like, yeah, you understand. Yeah, I know you do. Because if you don't, you're an idiot, obviously. I mean, I think that's obvious. So I see, it reminds me of approaches that I see being taken by companies out there that send out messages, email messages, social sponsored posts, sponsored tweets, it could be a, kind of pick your arrow kind of thing. But they just sort of assume understanding of their communications. Just as another story, I was at a startup event this past week, and I sat down with this one company. I go to startup events because I'm shopping for clients, right? I'm shopping for stories. I'm shopping for clients. So I'm at this event. I go up to this one technology company, kind of cool, impressive tech they had, and I basically said, so tell me what you do, right? And the company, blew through this 30-second pitch using all kinds of acronyms and sort of assumptions on my part that I understood blockchain and things. And I actually do understand a little bit about blockchain, but probably not certainly at the same level that they do. But I think that sometimes when we have knowledge, it can be a curse, because we assume that everybody has the same knowledge that we have, right? And that is a big, big problem. You see it a lot in technology companies. You see companies that just, they send stuff. I have a friend of mine who works for USA Today, and he posts bad PR pitches all the time. And you read these pitches that people send him, and it's like, and you just kind of sit there and go, I have no idea what this company does or why they would have sent it to this reporter at USA Today. I can't make heads or tails of this thing. And there's a lot of that in this world. There's a lot of things that you kind of read and go, I don't get this at all. And I will submit to you today that is 100% the responsibility or the fault of the communicator, not the audience. The audience, you need to meet the audience where they are. They got an 8th grade reading level, right to the 8th grade reading level. They speak, this language, right in that language. There's just kind of a fundamental who gives a crap as long as we hit them with enough we hit them with enough emails and enough tactics that we're going to get our message through. And I'm here to tell you, folks, that is not the case. That is not the case at all. You must strive, at least, for understanding of the message. Really, really important stuff. But we can find example after example after example of it being violated. So I thought I would give you just a few, let's look at a couple of the things that people need to understand where you're coming from with your message. Number one is clarity. If as we kind of say in branding, if you confuse, you will lose. Your message must be clear, and it must be clear for anybody. It can't just be clear if you have a PhD, from an advanced technical school. It can't just be clear to you. It's got to be clear all the way down to the people that you are trying to reach, right? And that kind of brings me to number 2 here, empathy. If there's one thing that I see not being used in communications on a regular basis, it's empathy, right? The entire telemarketing profession lacks any sort of empathy. They don't consider who the audience is, what they're doing, what their needs are, what they're looking to do. It's just about sell, baby. Go down there, smiling and dialing. Go down that sheet, and if you can just keep sell. I mean, and they get, let's say you get 1% of people who buy from that approach. That's enough for those companies. That is enough for them. They'll be like, well, we got 1%, a real marketer, not a telemarketer, but an actual marketer will say that burning 99% of the relationships to get 1% in sales is not a balanced equation. That's not what you want to be able to do. If you're really, doing marketing correctly, you're not going to burn any of those. You don't want to burn any of those relationships. No relationship left behind sort of policy is how I would say it. But so many marketing approaches don't even consider the audience. They don't consider the audience, their needs, their desires, even their right to be left alone. You ever opt out for something and they keep sending you the email? Oh man, there is no better way to spark anger in this world than if somebody asks to be let off your list and you don't let them. That is the absolute worst. It really, really pisses me off when I opt out of something and you give them 72 hours, right? IT doesn't happen instantaneously, but man, after a few days, if you're still on that list, you get angrier and angrier and angrier with that company because, and it's just like, and from a marketing perspective, it's just, that's suicide. I mean, you've got to be able to respect those opt-outs. I did a whole episode on the California Consumer Privacy Act that's coming. Real specific language about fines and things like that if you're not letting people out of things in a timely fashion. Don't have time to quite get into the whole privacy road there, but I highly recommend looking at the language of that law, which is available on the state of California website. It's a law, so it's not exactly a page turner, but I would highly recommend getting familiar with what that law says. And then another thing that's really going to help people understand your message is their response, right? Remember the communications model. We got sender, receiver, we got the message going between them. Everything's going great. And then there's this little thing called feedback where the receiver says, I get you. I feel you. I hear you. I hate you. I something you. I mean, this is really, really, really important. And when you see these, when you see like, professional marketing campaigns, it gets left off because honestly, at the end of the day, companies care about selling stuff and marketing is just a convenient way to do it. Marketing is just a convenient way to get people to sell. It's another trick, right? To get to what that company wants. But I'm here to tell you that there is a better way. The better way is to care about your audience, is to say, what did they think about what we said or did? And believe me, do not misinterpret this and say, well, I need to send out a survey. No one wants your survey, and they're going to lie to you even if you send it to them. Honestly, I mean, that stuff is worthless. What marketing survey have you filled out and told the truth on? Seriously. If you've told the truth on a marketing survey, you are in the smallest minority that exists. No one tells the truth, and certainly no one tells the real information that the company is really interested in. However, there are plenty of ways to find out, because if you send things out and people talk on social media about companies all the time. If you know how to listen, if you're checking your own social feeds, if you're checking hashtags in your in your space, first of all, you can check out the engagement on things that you do in social media. It has that, that great kind of data ability to check if people liked it. Did they share it? Did they engage with it? If you send out an email, check an open rate. How'd the open rate go? Is it better or worse than last time? Did they click on anything? Did we get any responses? Obviously if it's a sales related email, did they buy? Also a response that we, that we need to pay attention to. Things like that are critically important when doing organizational communications for any company, for any brand. Digital marketers are pretty good, by the way, at sort of A-Bing the message and figuring out what message is going to get the response and then kind of serving up more of that message. I think that's great. I think that's great because you, in a way, you're sort of digitally listening and you're responding, and that's fantastic. But don't forget the other pieces too of understanding. Somebody asked me this week. They said, Scott, why are there so many bad websites in the world? There's so many websites, so I can't even tell what something is. One of the biggest reasons there are bad websites goes like this. When companies were designing their websites, they used a lot of technical resources to be able to do that. Web design companies. And web design companies have coders, they have graphic artists, they have folks that understand the underbelly of how to put a site on the web and that kind of stuff. What they very often do not have is good communicators. They don't have solid people with marketing backgrounds in them. They're not trained to do the same stuff. And a website is a tactic, right? And if nobody's watching over the strategy, a lot of companies will just kind of hire a web firm, and then the web firm goes back to the company and says, well, what's your message? They don't know. They don't know. If you're a web company and you're asking the client, do they know their message? Hell no. They don't know anything. They don't know anything close to their message. You must do that step. That's why there's so many bad websites out there. The fact that, and that's why there's, so little understanding of different websites is because they're built, from a technical perspective instead of a communications perspective. Yeah. So we're talking about understanding, and you are tuned to May the Best Brand Win on Entertalk Media, the undisputed leader in music biz talk. Come on back. We're going to hit who's winning and losing this week. See you in a few.
Are you serious about your music? Are you ready to run with the big dogs? The experts at Pitbull Audio have the gear to get you into the game. From leading manufacturers like Mesa Boogie, Fender, Pioneer, and American Audio. To sound your best, you need the best. Pitbull Audio can deliver in rehearsal, on stage, and into the big time. Dropping beats, shredding guitar, or making the crowd roar. Whatever you dream, Pitbull Audio can help make it happen. We are Pitbull Audio. We want you to play it loud. PitbullAudio.com.
This is Jackie Bertoni from Jackie's Groove. Come join me weekly on my journey through the music business as I take you behind the velvet rope, interviewing industry notables such as Al Di Meola, Michael McDonald, and Al Jarreau, to name but a few. Listen to their stories on being in the studios recording #1 hits and onto the stages throughout the globe. Allow me to be your music historian. You can hear me live every Monday at 2 p.m. and every Wednesday at 12 noon Pacific Standard Time or 24/7 on jackiesgroove.com. Ready to get your groove on?
Hi, I'm Tim Dolbear, the host of Sound Experience on Entertalk Radio. Each week, I talk with top professional audio engineers, producers, musicians, and the manufacturers that make the tools that we use in the studio each and every day. From capturing the perfect take to mastering your final release, and the tools and how the pros use them, we are going to dive deep into their process and learn from their experience. I look forward to you joining us each week on Sound Experience with me, your host, Tim Dolbear.
Make this your vinyl night. I'm John J.R. Robinson, and every week, music creation comes alive through stories, experiences, and sounds when vinyl records filled our hearts and minds. My friends and I share our tips and techniques used in creation of iconic tracks for recording artists such as Michael Jackson, Eric Clapton, Quincy Jones, and Steve Winwood, to name a few. Vinyl has emerged hot, and the soul of vinyl defines art and passion which burns deepest at night. Tune in every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on entertalkradio.com.
May the best brand win with Scott Robertson's Music Biz Marketing Strategies. Now, here's your host, Scott Robertson.
Hey, everybody. Happy Friday. You are tuned to May the Best Brand Win on Entertalk Media, the undisputed leader in music biz talk. I am Scott, your host. We're talking about understanding. We got Paul with us. He's a guitar player. How much understanding could there really be, honestly?
I understand power chords.
He understands power chords. He understands how to make the guitar face when you're bending that.
The windmill.
Doing the windmill. Can you do that? Yeah, I can see it.
I'm I'm not bright enough for that. But I was thinking regarding marketing surveys from the previous segment. If I was to make one up, I would put a question in there. I tend to be the honest on marketing surveys. 1, not very honest. 2,
not
pretty
very
honest. C,
pretty honest.
Honest.
People lie on marketing surveys. I always laugh out loud when people say, "Oh, Scott, you should do a marketing survey." And I'm like, "Yeah, you know what I really want to do is waste a bunch of my time and then read a bunch of lies." I can't. I'm excited. I can't wait. You just do this for so long, and you're like, "I'm sorry, that's a bunch of crap. Nobody's going to ever tell you the truth."
Not ABC.
Well, exactly. Thanks, and what a great segue. Let's talk about who's winning and losing this week. So. We got to start off with ABC News because we cover the media on this show quite a bit, and man, did they make a big boo boo. So they mistakenly aired some video from a Kentucky gun show as Syria bombing footage. And as nutty as that sounds, that is the honest to God truth. They purported that this was a depiction of a Turkish attack in northern Syria against Kurdish civilians, and it's actually a video from 2017 of a Kentucky military gun show. Yeah. What I like that I love that I love the title of the video. Right, the video is titled "Knob Creek Night Shoot 2017," and then somehow somebody pulled that footage and said, "Well, we're going to use this for Syria because we don't have anybody over in Syria right now, and so we're just going to use it." It's guns. Kentucky, Syria, same thing, really.
They went through the trouble of cropping out the part of the video that clearly shows a large audience watching the show.
Oh, that's awesome. You know what would be great is if there's a KFC in the background.
Freedom has come to Syria, I guess.
They're like, the bombs are dropping, and get your wings. Don't forget to get your wings. Very, very important. Well, that's losing. That's all kinds of losing. So many people have pointed that out as losing, but I had to as well. You know who else is losing is Juul, Juul, the vaping company, the company that tries to make smoking healthy again. I don't know, whatever, by having fruit flavored vaping pods and that kind of stuff. Well, they've pulled the fruit flavored pods from the U.S. this week. E-cigarette maker Juul said they would stop selling its cream, fruit, berry, and mango flavored pods in the U.S. until the products have been reviewed by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration. The company will, however, continue to sell its popular menthol-based flavors, including mint. So, see, there's still a way to kill people. And I think that's really the lesson that we all need to know is that Juul is still out there finding ways to allegedly mislead people and drop them into a coffin a little faster than normal. This company is losing all over the place, by the way. They're under. There's all kinds of scrutiny. The problem with vaping and this kind of thing, and I think I said this when it came out, was the fact that this stuff was untested, wildly untested in the marketplace. And then there is a lot of different versions of product quality along the spectrum there, right? So people are, getting hurt by the pipes. Obviously the chemicals in them are bad. This is all one big bowl and box of losing, honestly, this whole thing that's going on. So Juul losing, all kinds of losing. Let's let's talk about astronaut Stephanie Wilson and NASA and the historic all-female spacewalk. So today's historic all-woman spacewalk from the International Space Station, really, really cool story. I was going to say, from a marketing perspective, a few brands did some cool stuff to get in on that. Delta sent an all-female crew and like filled with all young girls that were, to be inspired by this kind of event. Sent a plane down there so they could view it and everything. I mean, Delta did a great job, I thought, tying into this thing, and a few other brands did as well. But anyway, it's a huge historic occasion, and like I said, I hope they do more all something spacewalks going forward. That could be fun. They could do all men with erectile dysfunction spacewalk. That could be fun. I mean, and then you jump in, you're Viagra, you're these other pharmaceutical companies. Honestly, you could sponsor the whole thing. I mean, we could just brainstorm all day, honestly. That's all kinds of winning, though, folks, got to say. Toys R Us. Speaking of winning, in a strange twist of events, Toys R Us is back online. Thanks to a new deal with Target. I think we talked about this a little bit, but there's a great story on TechCrunch this week about that talks about its comeback strategy and what they're trying to do, and just what a strange couple of bedfellows, right? They buy the same SKUs from the same company, same kind of thing, but the Toys R Us website product pages now redirect to Target.com when consumers click the buy button to make an online purchase. Interesting, right? At its very core, interesting. Target says, hey, we want the Toys R Us brand, and we will be the fulfillment engine because that's what we do. We're a huge national retailer, and we can do fulfillment really well. And since there aren't actual Toys R Us stores anymore, there you have it. What an interesting way to use the brand. In my opinion, I'm going to put it in the winning category. I think it's great to have. I think it's great for us to have a world that exists that has Toys R Us in it. I think that is a good thing. I have a lot of personal nostalgia from my childhood about Toys R Us. I took my kids there, to Toys R Us. We need a world that has this brand that lives, in it. And if this is a way to do it, then I'm going to go ahead and say winning. Very, very cool. Shall we talk about the NBA for a second? Lots of people in PR have talked about the NBA. But as you might imagine, I will talk about it as well. And, I don't know, I may curse. Who knows? But no, basically, this is similar to the Bill Cosby situation in the sense that all of this came from a single tweet. You want to talk about social media sometime? It's like, did you know that Bill Cosby's entire destruction of his legacy came from a single tweet where he asked the internet to meme him? Oh yeah, you can go back and find it. And through the meme me process. By the way, if he hadn't sent that tweet, or his team hadn't sent that tweet, he's still America's favorite dad. He does not go to prison. None of those things happened to him. And honestly, he did some really bad stuff and deserved to pay for it. But just from a, tactic response kind of thing, none of that happens if he doesn't send that tweet. And the same thing is true for the NBA, actually. The troublesome tweet, of 7 words to support Hong Kong's pro-democracy protesters, and which is difficult for the NBA. You guys probably know this story. There's quite a few very lengthy examinations of what's going on with the NBA. Here's what I'll say about this situation. The NBA created its own sort of coffin for this. They created their own box because they were so vehement for so many years about saying, well, we're about expression, and we're going to let the players express themselves, and we're going to do that. And some people say, oh, that's their values and stuff. It's whatever. But to me, right. And this is where I'm going to call bullshit on the NBA, is the fact that if you're making deals with China, it's not like you just woke up one day and goes, well, I wasn't aware that China was so bad. That really surprised me. These guys are going to be great partners for us. Oh, wait, they murder thousands of their citizens and and people just disappear all the time and they control all the propaganda. Oh, right. And it's communism and those kind of things. Well, yeah, you're right. I mean, here's where I'm going to call bullshit. If you truly believe in freedom of expression and America and all those kind of things, then you don't sign partnerships with a communist nation who is America's enemy. I mean, Merry Christmas. I mean, there's your truth right there. And then you don't get into any sort of trouble, right? Because then you're living true to your values and allow me to go ahead and say it, true to this country's values, because we don't like countries that restrict freedom of religion and all sorts of liberties and self-expression and all those kind of things. So it's like, I kind of like the way the president talks about China. He says, "Look, they're out there. We need them. He's like, yeah, they're great people and that kind of thing. But he knows the fact that they're kind of the big bad in this story. They really, really are. They do really, really bad things, really sort of things that they're, where they're kind of the villains, right? Sorry, but, pick up a book, crack a book, man, seriously. And then the NBA sort of has the, I don't know. Then they say, well, we have to support, freedom of expression because we've done that, and we have to support the coach. But then at the same time, we're signing a deal for billions of dollars, with China. To me, you don't sign the deal with billions of dollars with China if you actually have those values, right? And I honestly believe the coach of the Houston Rockets believes that too. He's like, what is my league doing signing this deal with China that's killing all these pro-democracy people? No, I don't know. That's my feeling on it. A lot of people say, "Oh, he handled it just as well as he could." I'm like, you could have handled it better if you wouldn't have sold out your country, in the previously. That's how I would say it. Losing NBA, you're losing by a free throw. It's called a free throw, by the way, not a government-controlled throw. I just made that up. Let's talk about news site Splinter. Splinter? Splinter is being shut down by Gizmodo. Splinter, which had some pretty cool stuff going on it, right? And but Gizmodo's kind of the Geo Media acquired the assets of it. They're going to reallocate a very kind of small news team to other sites in the Geo Media portfolio, which is Deadspin, Gizmodo, Jezebel, things like that. Anyway, I just like to keep you guys informed about who's losing. Splinter's losing because they're getting shut down. That's pretty easy. It's a pretty easy one. You know what? The internet, web marketing, and all that fun stuff. Firefox, the browser, the fun browser that some people use, it's really nudging advertisers towards a cookie alternative. Now, cookies are those little bits of code that get inserted in your website so they can tell where you visit, and then that's how they can send you those annoying retargeting ads. And, my feelings on it, retargeting are, right up there with, I don't know, just I have very negative feelings about retargeting. So I don't think that is a solution. And I think that when people do that, it just makes me sort of hate their brand, and that is not the objective of marketing. So, but Firefox is basically saying that third-party trackers are going to be blocked by default in Firefox browsers. And basically, Firefox is trying to put a nail in the coffin of HTTP cookies. And this is going to be really, really important because, cookies were invented in 1994. And basically, it's a simple data file that websites could save on a user's hard drive to remember details, logins, browser history, last time they visited the site, that kind of stuff. And then, of course, advertisers can use that for all kinds of insidious bad things. But that's what's going on with Firefox and cookies. I think cookies are definitely losing. Because of Firefox saying, we need to come up with another alternative. There's a big discussion about what that alternative can be, all over the place. There's a few stories. There's a story in Wired about cookie alternatives, that kind of thing. You can find a couple of different ones, but that's kind of a good one. So, and then so cookies on the web are losing. Real cookies are also losing. This story that came out today. Research suggests that chocolate chip cookies are equivalent to drug addiction in the brain. And this is from ABC today. Of course, they can't tell the difference between Kentucky and Syria. So this is, huge grain of salt or grain of sugar or whatever. But basically, they say that research suggests the ingredients in a chocolate chip cookie triggers the same addictive response in the brain as cocaine and marijuana. So let's dig into that, shall we? From this lovely ABC News report. It says a traditional chocolate chip cookie contains 2.5 teaspoons of sugar, which includes some of the same responses as cocaine. Does it? Is sugar the same as cocaine, people? Sugar is the same as cocaine in the same way that Kentucky is the same as Syria, ladies and gentlemen. As for chocolate, they say it contains small amounts of a compound that triggers the same part of your brain as the addictive ingredient in marijuana, THC. Wow. I like chocolate chip cookies. I've seen people on cocaine. It doesn't feel like it's the same response to cocaine that there is to chocolate chip cookies. It seems like they may want to invest a little bit of research into developing a continuum that says that even though you have the same ingredients that are present, technically, it's quite possible that the headline is a little bit misleading and the data doesn't actually support what it is that they're trying to say. That would be, that would be my thing. And obviously ABC News probably needs to really watch out what it's doing with its headlines because, as we continue to mention, they seem to have difficulty discerning between things. Chocolate chip cookies, cocaine, Kentucky, Syria, things like that. They seem to have some difficulties going on there. And that's who's winning and losing this week, folks. Right now, you're tuned to May the Best Brand Win on Entertalk Media, the undisputed leader in music biz talk. Come on back. I'm going to give you a few tips to increase your communications understanding out there.
Hi, I'm Tim Dolbear, the host of Sound Experience on Entertalk Radio. Each week, I talk with top professional audio engineers, producers, musicians, and the manufacturers that make the tools that we use in the studio each and every day. From capturing the perfect take to mastering your final release, and the tools and how the pros use them, we are going to dive deep into their process and learn from their experience. I look forward to you joining us each week on Sound Experience with me, your host, Tim Dolbear.
Are you serious about your music? Are you ready to run with the big dogs? The experts at Pitbull Audio have the gear to get you into the game. From leading manufacturers like Mesa Boogie, Fender, Pioneer, and American Audio. To sound your best, you need the best. Pitbull Audio can deliver in rehearsal, on stage, and into the big time. Dropping beats, shredding guitar, or making the crowd roar. Whatever you dream, Pitbull Audio can help make it happen. We are Pitbull Audio. We want you to play it loud. PitbullAudio.com.
Make this your vinyl night. I'm John J.R. Robinson, and every week, music creation comes alive through stories, experiences, and sounds when vinyl records filled our hearts and minds. My friends and I share our tips and techniques used in creation of iconic tracks for recording artists such as Michael Jackson, Eric Clapton, Quincy Jones, and Steve Winwood, to name a few. Vinyl has emerged hot, and the soul of vinyl defines art and passion which burns deepest at night. Tune in every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on EntertalkRadio.com.
This is Jackie Bertoni from Jackie's Groove. Come join me weekly on my journey through the music business as I take you behind the velvet rope, interviewing industry notables such as Al Di Meola, Michael McDonald, and Al Jarreau, to name but a few. Listen to their stories on being in the studios recording number one hits and onto the stages throughout the globe. Allow me to be your music historian. You can hear me live every Monday at 2 p.m. and every Wednesday at 12 noon Pacific Standard Time or 24/7 on jackiesgroove.com. Ready to get your groove on?
May the best brand win with Scott Robertson's Music Biz Marketing Strategies. Now, here's your host, Scott Robertson.
Hey everybody, happy Friday. You are still tuned to May the Best Brand Win on Entertalk Media, undisputed leader in music biz talk. I am Scott. I'm hanging with Paul. Paul's got a gig tonight. He's excited. He's ready to wrap this show up so he can get on the road and go play some guitar tonight, right?
What's that? Oh, I don't know what you're talking about, man, but I know this chocolate chip cocaine is the best.
I didn't know that cocaine came in chocolate chip flavor. That's a new one.
You have to make your own.
You make your own.
Yeah.
I could see it.
It's called free chipping.
Oh man, where's your drum set sound effect for poor jokes like that? Shall we talk about winning and losing? What did you like? Obviously, the cocaine and chocolate chip cookie story struck a chord.
Yeah, I would have to. I kind of get what they're getting at. I don't think the mechanisms are anywhere near the same, but kind of that like compulsion with chocolate chip. But it's not just cookies; it's probably anything with sugar. But the interesting thing about sugar, and I'm kind of trying to kick it myself, like for a few weeks, like really trying to be strict about it. The interesting thing is, like, if you give yourself a couple of days where you just don't have any, like, the fiending kind of starts going away quite a bit. Like it's hard when you're like used to it all the time, but if you cut it out, it's easier to deal with just after a day or two. I don't know how that is with cocaine.
Yeah. So you're saying there's chocolate chip cookie rehab available, is what you're saying?
If there isn't, there should be.
You can rehab from chocolate chip cookies by just kind of going cold turkey for like 3 or 4 days and just shake. Are you shaking all over and you're like, oh my god, again?
Yeah, and then after 30 days you get a chip. A chocolate chip.
Nice.
See, one more.
Pretty soon there's like chocolate chip cookie, 12-step programs where they get up and hi, my name is Scott. My last cookie was about a week ago. I was having a hard day, and there was a bag of Chips Ahoy there, and I tore it open. I had a few Chips Ahoy. Hey Scott, how's it going?
My last cookie was 12 days ago, and that cookie was preceded by 36 other cookies.
My last cookie was 36 days ago. Hi Scott, good job with your cookies. Oh my God, what passes for news in our country? That should frighten you to your freaking core every day. Like this is the best they have. This is what they got. This is and it's like that's what's coming for you.
And the whole thing with Syria, like it really seems like the whole thing is being run by like 12-year-olds that just don't want to do their like book report.
I know, right? It's insane. It's insane. That's who's winning and losing. So, well, thank you, Paul. Let's dig into some tips. So this whole episode we've been talking about getting to a place of better understanding with your communications. The first thing that you kind of need, obviously, I'm going to give you a few tips, but the first thing you need is you have to want that. You have to say it's important to us as an organization that people understand what it is that we're saying on a regular basis. And like I said, there's so many things that are happening in communications where we forget to care about that. We just don't care. We're like, yeah, we're celebrating that. Hey, I worked for this PR agency in LA, and they used to kind of go around and toast in champagne and high five and everything. Every time we got a big, like a client like on the Today Show or a big hit like that. And I always used to be kind of the one going, yeah, but, that's just like, that's the beginning of it, right? The fact that we were able to reach people. Now, where does that go, right? Did that do anything? I mean, yeah, we want to celebrate that because that's what we get paid for, and that's a good accomplishment. But it's got to do something. They must understand. I mean, if your client gets on the Today Show and everybody's toasting and they fall down because they had too many chocolate chip cookies or cocaine, and they fall down to then you could have the opposite of a great day, just by what kind of happens in the story. So anyway, like I said, I'll give you a few tips. So my number one is you always want to start with really great messaging. Great messaging that is clear, that is all about them, that is all about their journey, it's all about, their stuff. I talk about this on almost every show. I don't think there's anything more important that we do as communicators than the message. I don't think there's anything that we will ever do that is more important, that can do more for a company than to make sure the message is good and all about them and all about their journey. I spend a lot of time in my professional life devoted to working with companies on the message. And that's just 30 years of doing stuff and seeing it and seeing what works. And what really works is having great messaging. Again, just as a quick review, about the messaging, it needs to be based on an emotion. It needs to be anchored in a human emotion that the audience is feeling. It needs to be based on sort of their I am statements about, I am this, I am up, if you're targeting an audience and they say, they have an I am statement, reasonably you can believe that they have an I am statement that says, I am powerful, I am productive, I'm efficient, I'm all these kind of things. Then all you have to do is make your product. I mean, if this is true, and let's hope that it is, but if it's true, then you just align your product with what they want to believe about themselves to be true, right? You want to show how your product gets them to the next step on their sort of evolutionary journey, right? In the Story Brand program, which I'm now certified in the Story Brand program, we talk about moving people to kind of their aspirational identities, right? So they, a hero in every story, starts out at one place and sort of ends up somewhere else. With your marketing, your customer starts out one place and ends up somewhere else. Like, for example, I'm a guy, right? My garage door in my house right now isn't going all the way down. That's a problema, because the garage door needs to actually hit the ground. That's really, really important. So I'm a character in a story that has a problem, a garage door that is not going completely down. And then at the end of the story, I'm going to be a guy who watches his garage door go all the way down, right? But in the middle of that story, there's going to be companies that are trying to vie for my business. And whichever one makes it easiest for me to get to the point where I want to get to, the point that I want to get to says, I want to be a guy that pushes on the garage door opener button and sees a garage door hit the floor. You know what I'm saying? So, and I'll let you know how that whole purchase goes. I'm going to be working on that, for the next, I don't know, a few weeks or something. But start with that great messaging. Did you notice in that we didn't even really talk about the product or what that was going to be? We just talked about me. We just talked about my journey, that kind of thing. That's how your messaging needs to be. You need to talk about them and their journey. And then you just position yourself as, hey, this is the way you're going to get there. Is it going to be a genie garage door opener? Is it going to be, this kind of thing? We don't know yet. Honestly, we don't know. It's going to depend, like I said, on which one of those makes it easiest for me. Is it going to be one that I buy through an installer because there's an element to this purchase? I'll tell you one thing right now. I'm sure as hell not going to install it. So, it's like, it's very high tension spring on a garage door. If that comes flying back at you, you don't have a host for your show anymore because my head is rolling down the driveway and my body is, falling down a ladder. So, that's not going to happen because I don't take on home improvement projects that that are like that. So anyway, like I said, Maybe the installer is going to recommend something. We don't know. We'll find out. But my tip number one for you is, again, messaging. Start with great messaging, clear messaging, all about them, all about their journey, that kind of thing. Number two, test it. Test your stuff before sending it out. Even if you're not even, you don't have to do like an official, A/B beta test, kind of thing with white gloves and a lab coat and that kind of stuff. I'm just saying, stop for a second. Take the message that you're going to get. Go to somebody who's not been working on the project with you, that's working in the company with you, or somebody you trust, and just say, even better if they're, representative kind of demographically or persona-wise for the audience that you're trying to communicate to, and say, could you read this for me and then play it back to me so I can make sure that that you understand what it is that we're trying to say? Really powerful. You will get so much stuff because people will say, well, you'll get all kinds of nutty stuff that comes out of that, and that can get your thinking going because you'll be like, okay, well, good. Well, then our message wasn't completely clear, or we could tighten this up here because they obviously didn't get it, right? Every good communicator that I know has a few people in their back pocket that they can send something to and say, what do you think? Is this clear? That kind of thing. And take the time to do that. I've had people say to me that, we don't have time. We just don't have time to test everything before sending it out. I disagree. I disagree with that. If you're doing communications right, you have time to test the message, because if the message is wrong and you send it out, or it's not clear, then you're just everything you're doing up to that point of being fast and everything and getting things out quickly, you're getting it out quickly and it sucks and it's not going to work. And it's like, what are you actually trying to do? Are you trying to reach people, or are you trying to just, check a box off and say, oh, we sent it out. I'm not responsible for anything beyond that. Who's buying drinks? That kind of thing. So make sure you understand that kind of what the true goal is. Test. Number two. Number three, regarding your frequency of sending stuff out and all your tactical approaches of sending stuff out, use your empathy for the audience. Okay? The audience is busy. The audience has received, 100 or 200 emails today by themselves, right? They are overloaded. They're seeing, billboards and TV advertisements and text messages and, telemarketing calls that are untargeted, asking if you want to take out any more investment capital for your business. By the way, I get like 4 of those a week, or a week. That's super conservative. I get it like sometimes a couple a day. And they and they're so brazen. They'll send me a text message and say, how much money could you use in your business? This kind of thing. And it's like, you don't have the right to text message me. You're not in the circle. You don't have the, what are you doing? Empathy. It is entirely absent from the communications profession today. The communications profession could give less than a crap about what they're going to inflict upon people. It doesn't even come up, except when I'm in the room. I'll tell you what, because we're in the what business, folks? We're in the relationship business. In the relationship business, we don't get to just blindly send stuff out to people, and not care about them and that kind of thing. We must use our empathy. Really, really important. Almost never used. If it is, it's completely rare. But you guys could change that. You could change that. Make sure you're always thinking about that. Especially when you're considering frequency of things. And again, that's one of my big arguments about marketing automation that I always talk about. Do you know any machines that have empathy for human beings? No, you don't. Why don't machines have empathy? because they are inhuman. And empathy is what? A human characteristic. That's right. That's right. It is impossible to impart empathy to a machine. They can't feel it. It's a feeling. We don't even understand it. We kind of know it when we see it and that sort of thing, but they don't understand it. You know, that's why I'm against marketing automation, because there's already no empathy being used out there. And then you want to automate stuff to where we can just send out stuff blindly and not give a crap one way or another. That's a bad idea for marketing. And you know who's going to come and shut it down? That's right. Lawyers, courts, government. They're coming. They're coming because no marketing companies used that empathy fast enough. And they're going to insert sort of an artificial empathy that goes like this. We don't care whether you care about the audience or not, but if you do something to violate the law, we're going to fine you into the Stone Age. That's our plan. It's sad. It's truly sad. Number 4, close that feedback loop with some real powerful measurement. Like we talked about it, sender, receiver, message, feedback loop. Make sure you've got some measurement in there. Did people understand us? How do we know? Let's ask those questions in our teams. How do we know people understood us? Well, we know because they took the action that we wanted them to take. Okay, great. That's a measurement of understanding. Did they like something? Did they share something? Did they engage with it? That kind of stuff. Close that feedback loop. Don't get going so fast that you forget how to measure and do that really important measurement step. Really, really, really key. And again, that's how you know. That's how you know whether you've reached understanding or not. And then step number 5, take what you learned through those whole other steps and that whole process and make sure you're using it the next time you communicate. If you're going to learn some lessons from putting out, communications, make sure you use the data that you got in there the next time you're communicating. Really, really important, And again, it all comes from kind of a fundamental understanding that, we can do this better. We can absolutely do this better. So what have we learned today, folks? We know that communication tactics are out there everywhere, and yet understanding by the human people doesn't always follow. So we need to make sure that before we shoot out everything that we can in our arsenal, that we've created the best possible environment for understanding to take place. That is supposed to be our goal, because understanding leads to powerful, positive relationships for all of our brands. That's it for me, folks. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you back here next week. Take it easy. Bye-bye. You know what's all around you every waking moment of your life? Marketing. You're choking on it. I'm Scott Robertson, and when it comes to strategic PR, branding, and marketing, I've seen it all. And actually, I'm still seeing it because bad marketing never sleeps. Join me each week on May the Best Brand Win, right here on Entertalk Radio, and learn how to make the marketing for your brand unforgettable.